There's something we've all felt but rarely talk about: betrayal. The sting of being wronged by someone we trusted. The frustration of seeing them move on as if nothing happened. And the lingering question that keeps us up at night: will they ever face the consequences of what they did? But here's the truth: justice doesn't always happen on our timeline, and it doesn't always look the way we expect. However, that does not mean God isn't working behind the scenes. See, life operates on a system bigger than our emotions. Just like the natural law of gravity ensures that what goes up must come down, there are spiritual laws that govern our experiences. And one of those laws is this: no one gets away with hurting someone indefinitely. So if you've ever wondered whether God is addressing the pain someone caused you, the answer is yes. But how do you know? How can you be sure He is at work? That's what we're here to uncover: 7 undeniable signs that God is dealing with those who hurt you. And once you recognize them, you'll realize something powerful. You don't have to fight for justice. God already has it handled. When someone intentionally hurts another person, they often believe they can move forward without consequences. They may convince themselves that they did nothing wrong or justify their actions to avoid accountability. But over time, life has a way of unraveling carefully built facades. Their once stable existence starts to shift, often in ways they never anticipated. At first, it may be subtle: small disruptions in their routine, unexpected obstacles, a sense of unease creeping into their daily life. They might experience conflicts at work, financial strain, or personal struggles that seem to appear out of nowhere. What once came easily now feels difficult. The confidence they carried begins to waver, and they start to sense that something is off. These disruptions can escalate over time. Relationships that once seemed unshakable start to fracture. They may feel misunderstood by those closest to them, or their usual support systems begin to weaken. Friends they depended on may withdraw. Family members may start questioning their actions. The sense of control they once had over their life slowly slips away, leaving them feeling lost. This kind of instability isn't always visible from the outside. They may still post happy pictures, maintain their social persona, and act as if nothing is wrong, but internally there is turmoil. They struggle with feelings they can't explain, restlessness that won't fade, and a nagging sense that something is missing. Sleep becomes harder to come by. Decisions that once felt easy now create anxiety. They may try to distract themselves with new experiences, but peace continues to evade them. They begin to wonder why things aren't working out like they used to. The confidence they once had turns into doubt. The things they pursued no longer satisfy them the way they once did. Opportunities that once seemed to come effortlessly now start slipping away. Doors that once opened with ease begin to close, and no matter how hard they try, they can't seem to regain the same momentum. It's as if an invisible force is blocking their path, preventing them from achieving the things they once took for granted. At first, they may dismiss it as bad luck or temporary setbacks. Maybe they apply for a promotion and get overlooked. A business deal that seemed promising suddenly falls through. They make plans that don't materialize, and no matter how much effort they put in, things just don't work out. Where they once thrived, they now struggle. The recognition they used to receive fades. Their ability to manipulate situations in their favor diminishes. This pattern extends beyond career and finances. Personal opportunities also begin to vanish. People they once charmed now see through them. Relationships that once seemed secure become unstable. Invitations stop coming, connections break down, and the people who once supported them start to step away. They may try to chase opportunities elsewhere, believing a fresh start will fix things, but the same barriers follow them. Over time, frustration sets in. They start to wonder why things aren't working the way they used to. They may even blame others, assuming the world is against them. But deep down, there's a growing awareness that something bigger is at play. The success they built on deception or selfishness no longer serves them. What they took for granted now feels out of reach. And the more they fight to control the outcome, the more life resists them. Every failed opportunity forces them to confront the reality that something beyond their understanding is shifting their path. Guilt has a way of creeping in, no matter how deeply someone tries to suppress it. At first, they may deny any wrongdoing, convincing themselves that their actions were justified. They might bury the truth under distractions, staying busy enough to avoid thinking about it. But over time, the weight of their choices begins to press down on them, and no matter how much they try to ignore it, guilt starts seeping into their thoughts. It often begins as a quiet nagging feeling, an unease they can't quite explain. Certain places, people, or memories trigger discomfort. They hear a conversation, see a post, or watch a movie, and suddenly a wave of shame washes over them. At night, when the distractions fade, their mind replays the moments they thought they had buried. The justifications they once clung to no longer hold the same power. The lies they told themselves start to unravel. This guilt manifests in different ways. Some people become more irritable, lashing out at others without understanding why. Some withdraw, avoiding conversations or situations that might bring up the past. Others overcompensate, trying to prove to themselves and others that they are good people, even as they battle an inner turmoil they can't escape. They may turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms, numbing their feelings with excessive work, relationships, or even substances. Yet nothing truly silences the voice inside them. At times, they may try to convince themselves they don't care. They may put on a show of indifference or even arrogance, but deep down, the weight of their actions lingers. It disturbs their peace, colors their decisions, and follows them wherever they go. No matter how much they try to outrun it, guilt refuses to be ignored. When someone has caused harm, they often assume that life will continue as usual. They expect their relationships to remain intact, their support systems to stay strong, and the people around them to stand by their side. But over time, something begins to shift. Key relationships in their life start to break down. It often begins subtly. Friends who once enjoyed their company start to distance themselves. Conversations feel different, less engaging, less trusting. The people who once defended them now hesitate. There's an unspoken tension, a growing sense that something isn't right. Those closest to them may start questioning their actions, even holding them accountable in ways they hadn't before. They may experience betrayal themselves, being let down by the very people they relied on. Those who once admired them no longer see them the same way. Slowly, their circle shrinks. Support they once counted on begins to fade. Invitations stop coming. Calls go unanswered. The people they depended on for validation or encouragement aren't as available as they used to be. In some cases, even their closest relationships, family, partners, lifelong friends, begin to suffer. Arguments become more frequent. The emotional connection weakens. People around them sense a change, even if they can't fully explain it. And eventually, some relationships reach a breaking point, leaving them isolated. This loss of connection forces them to reflect. When relationships deteriorate, it exposes a truth they've been avoiding. Their actions have consequences. The people who once saw the best in them now see their flaws. And no matter how much they try to maintain the illusion of control, they begin to realize that they are losing something deeper than just relationships. They are losing trust, respect, and the security of knowing someone truly stands by them. Reputation is something people often take for granted until it starts to slip away. When someone causes harm, they may believe that as long as they control the narrative, they can continue moving forward without consequences. They may think they can talk their way out of accountability, manipulate perceptions, or simply wait for people to forget. But over time, the truth has a way of surfacing, and their reputation begins to take a hit. At first, it may start with whispers, small doubts in the minds of those around them. People who once admired them begin to question their character. Their words no longer hold the same weight. The benefit of the doubt they once received starts to disappear. Little by little, the version of themselves they work so hard to maintain starts to crack. Then the consequences become more visible. They may find themselves excluded from conversations or opportunities. Those who once spoke highly of them are now silent. Rumors may circulate, but even without them, people begin to sense that something isn't quite right. They might notice how others react when their name is mentioned: hesitation, discomfort, or even disapproval. This loss of reputation doesn't always happen in grand, dramatic moments. More often, it's a slow unraveling. The respect they once commanded fades, their influence weakens. People no longer trust them the way they used to. They struggle to maintain the same authority, the same credibility, the same admiration. No matter how much they try to rebuild their image, something has changed. They may continue to act as if nothing is wrong, but deep down, they feel it. The power of perception is shifting against them. And with every action, every conversation, every interaction, they come face to face with the reality that they can't escape the truth forever. Life has a way of humbling those who act without regard for others. When someone causes harm, they may initially feel untouchable, believing that their actions will never catch up to them, but eventually, setbacks start appearing, unexpected obstacles that shake their confidence and disrupt their plans. At first, these setbacks may seem like coincidences, minor inconveniences, a streak of bad luck, or things simply not going their way. But as time goes on, the pattern becomes undeniable. Plans fall apart at the last minute. What once worked effortlessly now meets resistance. They experience failures in areas where they once thrived, whether in their career, finances, or personal life. No matter how much they try to push forward, something always seems to pull them back. Opportunities slip through their fingers. Goals that once felt within reach suddenly seem impossible. They may face rejection, disappointment, or a series of misfortunes that leave them frustrated and confused. Even when they work hard to fix things, nothing seems to go as planned. The harder they push, the more resistance they encounter. These setbacks also take a toll on their confidence. They start to doubt themselves. The arrogance they once had begins to fade. They question their abilities, their decisions, and their direction. They may feel as though everything is slipping out of their control, no matter how much they try to hold it together. This cycle of failure forces them to confront the reality of their actions. They can no longer ignore the weight of their choices. Every setback serves as a reminder that life is holding them accountable, and whether they recognize it or not, the consequences of their behavior are catching up with them in ways they never expected. There comes a moment when someone who has caused harm begins to feel an internal shift, a sudden and unexpected urge to reach out, to apologize, to make things right. This isn't always driven by a change of heart at first. Sometimes it's discomfort, regret, or even fear of the consequences catching up with them. But regardless of the reason, they feel a deep need to reconnect. At first, they may resist this feeling. Pride tells them they don't need to apologize. They may try to convince themselves that too much time has passed or that the other person has moved on. But no matter how much they try to suppress it, the thought lingers. It surfaces in quiet moments, in memories they can't shake, in the realization that something is missing. This urge often becomes stronger when they start experiencing their own. When life humbles them, when they face betrayal, setbacks, or loneliness, they begin to understand, on some level, the pain they caused. They see reflections of their own actions in what they are now experiencing, and suddenly, the weight of what they did feels heavier. They may reach out in subtle ways, liking an old post, sending a vague message, or testing the waters with small talk. Some will gather the courage to offer a direct apology, acknowledging their actions. Others may not explicitly say the words, but their behavior will reveal their inner conflict. They might ask mutual friends about you, bring up shared memories, or find ways to cross paths again. Regardless of how they do it, the truth remains the same. Something inside them is unsettled. And whether they fully understand it or not, they are being drawn toward making peace, not just with you, but with themselves. One of the clearest signs that God is dealing with someone who hurt you is the unexpected sense of peace that begins to settle over your life. At first, it might not be obvious. You may still carry the weight of what they did, replaying the pain, questioning why it happened, or struggling to let go. But then, without warning, something shifts. The emotions that once controlled you start to fade. The anger, the resentment, the desire for closure, all of it begins to lose its grip. This peace doesn't come from getting revenge or seeing them suffer. It's not about justice in the way you imagine. It's something deeper, something unexplainable. You wake up one day and realize that they no longer occupy space in your mind the way they used to. The things that once triggered pain no longer have the same effect. You stop checking their social media. You stop wondering what they're doing. You stop waiting for an apology that may never come. Instead of feeling bitterness, you feel indifferent. Instead of wanting to prove something, you feel free. You realize that your happiness is no longer tied to them, what they say, what they do, or whether they ever acknowledge the hurt they caused. There is a sense of emotional distance, as if a weight has been lifted off your shoulders. This is not something you force. It's something that happens naturally. And as you lean into this peace, you begin to see things differently. You no longer need closure from them because you've already received closure within yourself. You no longer need them to acknowledge the past because you've outgrown it. And in that moment, you recognize that God is handling what you once tried to carry on your own. Another undeniable sign that God is dealing with those who hurt you is the way he begins to elevate you while they remain stagnant. At first, it might not seem obvious. You may still feel the weight of what they did, questioning when justice will come or when your breakthrough will happen. But over time, a shift takes place. You start growing in ways you never expected while they struggle to move forward. Doors begin opening for you. Opportunities that once seemed out of reach suddenly appear. You find yourself in spaces you never imagined, surrounded by people who value and respect you. Your confidence grows, your mindset expands, and the things you once prayed for start to unfold before your eyes. The very areas where they tried to break you become the areas where you thrive. Meanwhile, they find themselves stuck. The same tactics they once used no longer work. They watch as you move forward while they remain trapped in the same patterns. The success, relationships, or influence they once held begins to slip away, and no matter how much they try, they can't seem to rise the way they used to. This isn't about wishing failure upon them, it's about divine alignment. God is showing you that you were never meant to stay at their level. He is elevating you beyond what they tried to diminish. And as you grow, you begin to realize that their presence was never essential to your success. If anything, their absence became the very thing that propelled you forward. You stop looking back. You stop wondering if they see your growth. Instead, you focus on your purpose, knowing that God is using your journey as proof that no harm done against you can stop what he has planned for you. One of the final and most powerful signs that God is dealing with those who hurt you is the way truth starts to reveal itself. No matter how much they tried to hide their actions, twist the story, or make themselves look innocent, the truth has a way of surfacing at the right time. At first, it may seem like they got away with everything. People may have believed their version of events. They may have walked away without consequences. But truth is like a seed. It takes time, but eventually it grows into something undeniable. Situations arise that expose their true character. Patterns repeat, and others begin to experience what you went through. They can no longer maintain the illusion of who they pretended to be. People who once defended them start to question their integrity. The lies they told begin to unravel. The reputation they worked so hard to maintain begins to crack under the weight of their own choices. They may try to cover it up, shift blame, or act as if nothing is wrong. But deep down, they know what they tried to keep hidden is no longer in their control. And while this happens, you no longer feel the need to prove anything. You don't have to expose them. You don't have to seek revenge. The truth reveals itself naturally, without your interference. You find peace in knowing that God has taken care of what you once struggled to understand. This is where real closure happens. Not in receiving an apology, not in watching them suffer, but in realizing that justice was never in your hands to begin with. The truth coming to light is God's way of reminding you that nothing done in the dark stays hidden forever. When someone hurts you, it's natural to want justice, closure, or even a sense of accountability. But God's way of handling things is different. He doesn't always respond with immediate consequences or dramatic confrontations. Instead, he works in ways that are undeniable, shifting circumstances, revealing truth, and bringing transformation in his perfect timing. Through each of these signs, you begin to see that nothing goes unnoticed. Their life becomes unsettled, their relationships break down, their reputation takes a hit, they face setbacks, feel an urge to make amends, and struggle to move forward. Meanwhile, God grants you peace, elevates your life, and ensures that the truth is revealed. Every step of the process is a reminder that no one expects accountability, not in the way people expect, but in the way God intends. And as you witness these signs, something inside you changes. You no longer seek revenge. You no longer wait for an apology. You no longer need validation from the people who once caused you pain. Instead, you embrace the growth, the lessons, and the healing that come with trusting God's plan. The greatest justice is not in watching them struggle. It's in realizing that their actions no longer define you. The best closure is not in their downfall, it's in your elevation. And the most powerful lesson is understanding that God is always working, even when you don't see it, even when it takes time, even when it feels unfair. So let go, move forward, trust that God is handling what you no longer need to carry. Because in the end, his justice is greater than anything you could ever imagine.